Blog Talk Radio. Welcome to the Best People We Know radio show. This is where you'll meet experts and celebrities who share their success secrets with you to help you be your most successful best too. Your host, Deb Scott, is a certified professional coach at Discover the Amazing You Coaching and author of the award-winning motivational book, The Sky is Green and the Grass is Blue, turning your upside-down world right side up. The Best People We Know radio show brings you powerful resources, effective ideas, and transformational tools you can use to educate, inspire, and motivate you to be your most purposeful, peaceful, happy best. So get ready to experience mind vitamins to feed your whole soul. Good change is about to happen. The Best People We Know radio show. Here's your host, Deb Scott.
Oh, good morning to all the best people I know out there. You are going to love, love, love this show. It is an honor and a privilege to have Guy Finley back with us today, and his new book is coming out tomorrow, The Secret-of-Immortal-Self by Guy Finley, Key Lessons for Realizing the Divinity Within. And I will tell you, I promise that this is going to change your life. I have so many little sticky notes all over this book. I'm excited to be able to share the shine of the magnificent Guy Finley with you. If you'd like to speak with him live, you can call 347-637-1318. Go to guyfinley.org as well, and you can find out more about the secret of your immortal self. And stop by my website, debscott.com, to get a listing of all of our great shows on the Best People We Know show. Well, let's get right to it because there's so much to cover. As many of you know, Guy Finley is going to be celebrating the release of this newest book, The Secret of Your Immortal Self. What you might not know is that he's the son of a late-night talk show pioneer, Larry Finley, and he grew up in Los Angeles, California, where many of his childhood friends were children of celebrities, and at a very young age he decided to pursue a music career. And you know what? He became very well known and famous right away. He was one of the first white soft rock artists signed with Motown Records, and many of his songs were recorded by popular artists that you probably know, like Diana Ross, the Jackson 5, Debbie Boone, and he composed many scores that were in a number of motion pictures and TV shows. But you know what? It seems like he had it all, but in spite of his great success in his early professional life, maybe like some of you, he said that he still felt like something was missing. So he went to seek this void, and he abandoned his music career, and he left for India in the Far East, where he studied spiritual teachings of self-awareness. And it was during this time that he had a spiritual awakening, and he's never looked back. He's begun his career with best-selling writing, classics such as The Secret of Letting Go, Fearless Living, The Courage to Be Free, and you know what? There's so many, we can't list them all. We'll never get to him, and we want to hear what he has to say to us. But he has 40 other books, which have sold over a million copies. And, you know, they're in 18 languages for a reason. He's the founder and director of Life of Learning Institute, and he has a renowned nonprofit, which is in Merlin, Oregon. And you can go there. And he teaches all the time. You can find more about that on his website. But he's also a faculty member at the Omega Institute in New York. He's a regular contributor to BeliefNet, Huffington Post. He's on HuffPost Live. He's everywhere. But most important, right now in this moment, he's here with us. Thank you so much, Guy, for getting up early and being with us, because I am just loving this book. It's my fave.
Thank you so much, Debbie, for the kind words. I appreciate it. I'm glad too that you are finding helpful material in the new book.
Well, I tell you, it's very, and you know, the first thing I want to say is thank you. I feel like the parable, the little story, and it's filled with so many great stories. It's just like motion pictures in your mind as you're reading the words. And I feel like I want to say thank you, like the story you had about the king and everybody who was going to get the crown and whoever brought the best gift, and then there was somebody that ended up winning the crown that, you know, all he did was say, thank thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to live here, to have all the things that I have. There's nothing that I can give you except the recognition that I appreciate that I've just here and been invited. So I thank you for the journey of each page that you put your heart into writing, because it is really amazing.
I love that you love that second to last story. That's I kind of snuck that one in there for people just like you, because that particular story speaks to a quality that is pretty much missing in our world today, which is an honest, true humility born out of recognizing that we are given this life and where we have a reason for it, and the discovery of that purpose is what really completes us as human beings, which is what my new book is about.
Yes. Let's just talk about that for a moment, because humility does seem to be rare, and it's most important. And I love the story, and I love that you talk about humility, because I have found, just in the few years that I've done this radio show, the great people that I've met that have changed my life or read about, that is the one character trait they have, is humility. Define real humility for the listeners as this story describes so beautifully.
I think real humility is, first of all, not something that you can put on. It is a hard-won quality. Do you know the root of the word humility, where it comes from?
Is it humus, earth, or?
Yeah, it is. It's rich soil, and the parallel here is that in order for something to grow, any seed, which is what we are in every religious tradition, one must be planted in the proper earth, in the proper ground, and in order for that to happen, it runs slightly deep. You stop me if I go too long here. We are, no question, endowed with tremendous gifts as human beings. We do have the capacity to create. So much of that rage of the secret and all that business of years back. There's truths that connected to it, but the problem essentially is that while we are endowed with the capacity to manifest, to imagine, and then produce what we want as creators or co-creators, the fact of the matter is that story of being a creator is secondary to the real story, without which, as a context, a background, nothing good can come out of the first story of being a creator. And the background, the second story, the deeper story, is that we are creations. That we are put here with a very distinct purpose, that until we understand and begin to fulfill that, and everybody who's listening knows that, you can create a mansion, $1 million, whatever it is that you're able to, put your shoulder to and push through and make. But you get to the end of the thing that you create, and if we're honest, we're as empty as we were when we started. Not that we didn't learn lessons along the way, but to quote Mr. Howard, a great man that I worked with for 15 years before he died in the 90s, he said, "It is wise to seek immortality because time defeats all other ambitions." So when we start to finally get it, that, we can become something in this world. We can make something of ourselves. We can win the approval of our peers and all of that business. But when we're alone at night, or when suddenly the world turns left when we were planning on going right, or we get the news about our health, which is, as my older brother used to say, nobody gets out of here alive. Suddenly we realize that for all I've won, I still don't have that interior understanding, that true consolation of realizing that, and to the heart of the book, that I have found the part of myself that understands that death is not the end of life. and that I am complete, and that within me is a nature that isn't just complete, but that is the act of completion itself, ceaselessly participating consciously in this creation called our existence, and participating in a positive, creative, constructive, and loving manner, so that none of our actions impugn ourselves or punish anyone else. This is... Go ahead, please.
No, you have so many great points, and I just wanted to punctuate some of them.
Yes,
because, one of the things that I felt as I was experiencing this book, and I trust that the readers will know what I'm talking about when they pick it up and start reading, is that sense of aha, that sense of I know this to be true, that sense of I never looked at myself or my situation or my life or that circumstance that way. And what I also felt was a great sense of peace, forgiveness, and trust. And trust that, you know what, as you said, even the very things that we oppose are part of that process that's going to bring us to where we most want to be. And the freedom of being lighter with your parables, with your stories, with the way that you had the key lessons at the end, everything about it really, really touched my heart. And I think that this sense of humility and the stories, that idea that, you know what, whoever's listening right now, you have a gift. It's not an accident that you do what you do, that you feel what you feel, and that when we know that everything is taken care of in that way, we can have a sense of peace and awe and wonder. If we could just for one moment, because I also loved how you started the book out with your aha moment, and you were talking about, it's important that the readers, when you get this book, if you're one of those people that doesn't read the introduction, you must, because this introduction that Guy has shared will set the foundation so that you can go to each new level in a very solid manner. So you need to read the introduction because it really sets the stage to help you get the most for yourself in each one of the chapters that he's written. But you talk about what I have written. I'm just going to quote you here now. What I have written here, the knowledge that I share with you, is always just the beginning. It is new as we are willing to let it act upon us. In this way, each awakening is the first step in the greatest journey that any of us will ever undertake. And you talk about seeing as a bonsai tree or something. Let people, share that for a moment with the listeners, because I love that visual. And it's true. It's a true story. I love true stories.
Yeah, it is a true story. Well, the heart of it is that when I was still in my teens, I had begun to become a successful composer. I was living in Malibu. And I went to an open-air market there where I walked into one of these kind of an outdoor, I didn't know what the heck it was. I was sort of attracted. I walked in, and there were hundreds of bonsai trees, which are these miniature, it's a form of art in the East, if people don't know what it is, where a tree is dwarfed over as many as 100 or 200 years. A little tree is continually cut back until the entire essence of the age and the struggle and everything is exhibited in this little tree that sits in a pot that you would have to go to a cliff somewhere in the Himalayas to see something as dramatic. And when I walked in, I had never seen them before, and it's a true story. I just was so moved that I started to cry. I couldn't explain it to myself back then, but now I do understand very much of what was going on. And in essence, listeners, you work with me for a minute, and Deb, you be advocate in case I'm not clear enough. The reason that we are drawn to the things we're drawn to, like I was drawn to those bonsai trees, is that when we stand in front of something that exhibits power or beauty or grace or harmony, or what is timeless, when we stand before something like that, that we're drawn to, it's because what we are in relationship with in that moment is awakening and stirring in us a counterpart, a part of ourselves that is, in fact, already living within us, eternally, I might add, but that we're asleep to. So that the moment of coming into the relationship with that beautiful bonsai tree or the magnificent sequoia or a night sky that goes on forever is that suddenly you realize that within you there is this unbelievable character that you didn't know was there, and you can't swim deeply enough in it because it is, in fact, a timeless experience. Now, you can see that, right? I'm drawn to someone that I love because they stir in me qualities, sacrifice, compassion, things I didn't know I was capable of doing, and that I want to do because of this relationship. Yes?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Now, these are timeless moments. This is why we love nature. Seeing a horse run across a field, we are, in that moment, the old saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. What it means is that that timeless quality exists first in our hearts and mind, and then nature reveals that timeless quality to us, and we revel in it. We revel in the revelation because it awakens in us what is timeless and allows us to share in it. Now, I show in the book that exact same principle of relationship between what we love and stirs what is beautiful in us also exists in the moment when someone says something we don't like, when we act out something that we know we ought not. So the event, I say that lessons ride in on the back of events because the events produce revelation of characteristics in ourselves that we weren't conscious of. It's in becoming conscious of these timeless parts of ourselves that they are integrated. And then we have what you've been talking about, which are these aha moments when we realize, oh my God, I did know that. I had felt these things before, only it was lost to me, and now I am found. Across the board, this deep sounding of what our soul is meant to reflect in this world that is divine and timeless is never not taking place. We just have to learn to be present to it.
Well, let me tell you, your book is definitely helping each one of us be present. And, you know, the irony, Guy, that I found as I was reading and even in listening to you now, of course, is that, you know, to really live, you have to think about dying, or the irony of, as you talk about so often, the seed, the death, the rebirth, that, you know what, that immortal self that we tap into, that idea of reflecting on death is really giving us a new freedom that we couldn't have in any other way. And that just like that tree, just like that aha moment that we have, that all of our circumstances have created us, just like that tree that you shared had weathered and so forth, really gave me a sense of freedom. And I wanted to read something that I loved to illustrate this point. I'm not going in any particular order because I have like little pinky tabs all over the book, so I apologize.
The love of these things we're talking about will provide the order for us.
Oh, my gosh, I love that. You know, we are the best people we know. Is this good or what? It says, all seemingly impassable moments in your life are seen for what they are, a predestined place for you to meet, let go, and outgrow the lower level of yourself that used to stand fearfully before it. The boundary between limitation and limitless disappears, and now you stand on the side of unlimited possibility. Freedom's not found by fighting with what you think stands in your way. Your true spiritual liberation nests within this one unthinkable realization. Get ready, everybody. Ready? Here it is. What is in your way is part of the way. I tell you, there are millions of questions that you present that create millions of new ways of thinking, being, and doing for true freedom. And I love this. It's understood that whatever seems to be said against you has actually been put there for you to outgrow it, then you have received, opened, and accepted the invitation of the divine.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, everybody, whatever you think is your problem, that's not the problem. That's
right.
the gift. That's the
exactly
gift.
Right. We're talking about what it means in the truest sense of the word. No hoi polloi, no phony baloney, no spiritual fluff. We're talking about how a man or a woman learns what it means to be absolutely fearless in the face of no matter what it is appears, because they begin to realize that the only way in which it is possible to really grow as a human being is to encounter the parts of us that stand in our way. We don't yet get that the only thing we meet as an obstacle is what we've yet to understand about ourselves. So that once we begin to use the moments as the mirror that they are, that we can see that we came into this relationship, we met this problem, this challenge, no matter its nature, from a nature that the moment is now revealing to us as being no longer able to serve us. And so in the revelation of the limitation, we let go. We drop the resistance. We drop the control freak. We drop all of that part of us that believes that if the world doesn't go the way we want it to, we're going to die. Well, listen, fighting with the world changes nothing. You cannot resist a moment and learn from it. So if you resist a situation, you can be guaranteed that what's going to take place is the condition will return, because the nature that resists the condition didn't learn from it, and it's going to reincarnate. There's no other way around it. Resistance is secret repetition.
Which gets me to that wonderful mantra that you talk about. I think it's somewhere in the middle of the book. It says, the feel is real, but the why is a lie. I love that.
I love that. Yeah.
Because what you're really challenging us to do is saying, it's not trying to understand that other person or that other situation. It's looking at each emotion, feeling, circumstance and saying, what is this telling me about me? What is this showing me about God? What is this bringing into me that I wouldn't know in any other way? And this mantra of the feel is real, but the why is a lie. I think that a lot of listeners are probably saying, well, why do I keep doing this to myself? Why don't I love myself enough to just let go then? It's like that monk story that you had where the monk's talking to the more important, the boss monk, I don't know.
Yeah,
and he says, I just, all this noise, I can't get quiet. What's going on here? I need quiet. And the older monk is just having him sit there in silence, and it's driving him crazy. And, he's saying, oh, can't you hear the noise? Well, guess what? It's not the noise that's bothering you from the other people. It's you arguing with yourself about not wanting the noise. Hello, wake up call. Who's doing that? You're the only one in your head, everybody. But let's talk about this other story, because I'm looking at the time and I have so many. All right, let's just have a little plug here for the book. Okay, The Secret of Your Immortal Self. If you get it tomorrow, and Eric is fantastic because you surround yourself with the best people. There's going to be lots of free gifts that you can get in celebration of the book, and I know that I have my Mind Vitamin Minutes is in there, so that'll be great. But The Secret of Your Immortal Self, and they can go to Guy Finley, and I have a link on our page, and I'm going to be tweeting and doing all that too. But, this story about why do we keep ourselves in this prison, because, sometimes I say to myself, so why am I doing that to myself? Okay, stop that, Deb, just don't do that. Well, it's like the guy, Armand and Edmund or whoever they were, oh, you're only like just a few feet away to getting out. I've dug this grave out, right? And if you just dig a few inches of your grave, well, it would be out to the ocean. And then the guy's like, okay, ready. Today's a big day. We're going to escape from prison. And he says, hey, did you dig us out on your side? Because I dug us out on my side. And he goes into the tunnel and he went right back deeper into the prison. And the guy's like, what the heck did you do? You were only a few feet away from freedom. It's like, oh, well, the soil was easier to dig in the other direction or whatever. It's like, why do we do that? Why?
I cannot believe that you know all these stories so well.
Oh, my God. When I say I love this book, I am telling you, I love this book. I had to reread it, though. It was like, okay, I have to read that again. I'm still trying to figure some of it out. It's not for the faint of heart.
Debbie, you've touched something very fundamental, and it is this. Each time we come into contact with what is true, and we embrace that truth because it reveals and awakens us to something similar in ourselves, that nature that is timeless and our relationship to it is strengthened. And each time that relationship is aligned and strengthened, we receive more of that timeless nature, and therefore we suddenly see something much deeper than we did before in the very thing we may have read 10 minutes before that.
Yeah.
That's the proof of this actual conduit that exists within each and every one of us between our present nature and a higher form of consciousness that is waiting for us to align ourselves to it in the present moment through this awareness of these relationships that we're talking about. Now, I want to grab onto something because I want to give the listener something concrete. The feel is real, but the why is a lie. Briefly, let me explain that.
Yeah, because somebody in the chat room is loving that one. Andy Lyons is saying, I love that.
There is no such thing as psychological fear. Fear of tomorrow, fear of what somebody may do, fear of what I'm going to fail at. No such thing as psychological fear without negative imagination. Negative imagination is the root of psychological fear. Example, something happens, I get some news, the phone call, a newspaper, whatever. My mind picks up the event, and it begins to tell me what the event means to my life. Now, the only way that something can begin to tell you what the event means in a negative manner is to project ahead what it believes the impact of the event will be. So it starts to create an image, an object that it looks at, and it goes, oh no, not that, what's going to happen? The mind that looks at the negative image doesn't know it just created that. And it resists its own imagination. It is in the resistance of the things that we imagine without knowing that this divided mind has projected a negative outcome and then says, I hate that we get caught in the fear of tomorrow. You wake up and realize the only fear there is produced by a mind that is acting against itself in the dark of itself. The very light of that revelation will begin to separate you from identifying with that level of yourself, with that nature that is still asleep. I wanted to get that in.
And I'm glad that you did, because I love, and I'm so glad we have you recorded, because I have to recycle all of your wisdom thoughts here. And just listening to your voice along with reading the book, it just is, talk about a marriage made in heaven. But that is really, it's very deep and very profound to consider what you've proposed, and I can't even imagine the amount of hours and patience and silence and the discernment and all that you went through to be able to write all of this and share this wisdom with us.
It's in all of us, Deb.
Mind-boggling.
That's the point of the book. The book is designed to stir in the reader the remembrance of this wisdom that already resides within us. We've been put to sleep. We have forgotten who we are.
Well, it's like the story. I'm thinking of all these stories. There's so many millions of them. I'm telling everybody, get it, The Secret of Your Immortal Self. We've forgotten what we loved. We've forgotten that we are loved. It's like the father with the girl who's cleaning the toys out or something, and it's like, let's give some for a donation, and there's millions of these toys, and well, there's so many, but then there's one at the bottom that's ragged, that's been through the mill, that looks like it's just been really used and abused, and that was her favorite toy. Well, why is that one at the bottom? Because it got lost with all the ones that she didn't care about. And how often do we do that to ourselves? And I love that you brought me back to that remembering and that place of gratitude, because as you said with your brother, no one's staying. Last I checked, we're all leaving. But we tend to focus on the things that don't matter, and it's like, okay, just stop doing that. The other story, and I don't know where you came up with all these stories, but the guy who has won all these awards, like just imagine all of us. We've got everything that we think is going to make us happy, the fame, and this guy, he's got this big a gala like, the Oscars, and he's so famous, and all these people are there to honor him, and everything's great, and he's looking at the table with all the food, and he's freaking out, and his buddy's like, what are you freaking out about? Everything is here for you. Are you kidding? There's like hundreds of people here. You're winning all these awards. You're the best of the best. You've got everything you could possibly want. And he's like, oh, look what they did. Look what they did. I can't believe it. It's ruined. It's ruined. And it's like there's the globe world with tomatoes, and somehow the world's supposed to know he hated tomatoes or something, and all he's focusing on is that something in the food court was made with tomatoes and he doesn't like tomatoes. It's like, stop it, people. Stop it. The world, our life is the gala and the event, and we're just looking at, like, no one's noticing that. The tomatoes.
See, but there's another, you are unbelievable, Deb. I just love that you know all these stories so quickly. Look, we have a nature that is, it's not an inappropriate expression, hell-bent on generating a familiar sense of self. That familiar sense of self, even though we're sure that it wants what is best, it doesn't want what is best for us. It wants what best serves the stirring of who and what we have been. So it walks into a room, it's with a group of people, it's sitting at a dinner table, it's at the office, and that nature will find one thing out of a million that bothers it. Why? Because then it can set itself against that one thing, and the more it sets itself against that thing, the stronger it feels. But the truth is, what's getting stronger is a kind of psychological prison that we are helping to construct by agreeing to identify with this part of us that only lives to push against things or to push for them. We can do something much greater than that. There's a passage, because it's connected to that story. There's a passage in the New Testament where Christ says, resist not evil. The original Aramaic of that phrase, resist not evil, is do not oppose what opposes you. That's the actual translation. In other words, and we can do this together, this is one of my favorite little exercises to exhibit how futile it is to resist any moment. Let's make our right hand, listeners, our right hand represents us on a happy-go-lucky day. So here's my right hand. It's bouncing along. Now take your left hand. Out of the corner of your eye, here comes your left hand bouncing along towards your right hand, and it represents the thing you don't want. Now, when we begin to see something we don't want with our right hand, here it comes with our left hand, what do we try to do, Debbie? What do we try to do, Deb? Try to push away our left hand, right?
Yep.
Get rid of it. We resist it. Now, take your right hand and begin to resist your left hand. Go ahead. Push it away.
Yeah.
You do it.
Well, that's not. Yeah. irony.
That's called isometric exercise. You are actually strengthening the negative part. The resistance is being strengthened. When you push against the thing you don't want, you are not pushing against the event. You are identifying with that nature that lives to resist that event, and that will never be happy because it'll always find something it doesn't like. The awakened man, the awakened woman understands that nature lives within them, and they use its existence instead of letting it use them.
It really is, and you talk with I love that exercise. I love your exercises, and I remember reading that in the book. I can't find the exact page now where you talk about that, and then the Chinese, little Chinese mechanism there that we do that to ourselves. But I think that it's really important for the listeners to know that just this conversation that we're having and these new awarenesses that we've had in just these 30 minutes, we're forever changed. And in that ability to just consider the possibilities, we've already received that gift of hope, that gift of immortal self, that gift of connectedness, and the peace of just being able to just let go, but to embrace it is the best way. It seems counterproductive, but to embrace it is the best way to be able to do that.
Yes.
Can you share? Wow, I'm looking at the time. I'm so sad. Well, there's so many things I want to ask you, and it's so hard. So, I wanted to
do another. We'll talk again, Deb. Okay, we'll do another show so we can spend more time. It's too enjoyable.
Oh my gosh, it's just so great. I mean, I'm just eating this stuff up. Talk about some good soul food. Here's the other thing: is that you really helped me let go of that judgment of, the past event or that future, and you talk about to be able to see any life event, good or bad, as a vehicle to help transport us from our present level of understanding to a higher one requires that we develop a new relationship with these unwanted events in our lives. See, new relationship. That's what you've been saying. Instead of trying to protect ourselves from them, we must become willing to see what they are revealing to us about ourselves in that same moment.
Here's eight words to summarize all of that. If you really want to learn and grow, and by the way, listeners, we must act. Look, we acknowledge the goodness of this. Now I take that word acknowledge and I turn it into two. Act knowledge. We must take these new ideas, these seeds, and act upon them. Here's one of the ways. An event comes along you don't want, somebody says something that upsets you, makes no difference what it is. Here are the 8 words. Thank you, I didn't know that about myself. Thank you, I didn't know that about myself. That's how you turn the moment from straw into gold, because you use it to discover something about yourself instead of trying to prove to that person or the world your power and your position should not be challenged. That's a waste. It's useless. The only thing that works in the truest sense of what is timeless is when we give ourselves over to this wish and willingness to be watchful in the moment instead of being carried away by this willfulness that insists the story go exactly as our little story dictates. Little story's good. It's fine. Develop excellence. Pursue it. But understand there is a greater story, one that is so for you it can't be described, and you must accede to that and let it show you what it wants to show you so that you can succeed in all worlds.
Well, thank you. I didn't know that about myself. That's what this book is about, because I really felt connected to God. Like, that the shadow, you don't have a shadow which you don't like without the light. It helped me focus on the source of the light. And and the light, as you say in one of your stories, I can't remember which one this was, but a little light that you bring lights the path for anybody that might be in darkness. And that light in you shares the light in me, shares the light with Sally, Joe, Sue, or whoever's here at this particular divine appointment that we're having now, and we're all better for it. Did you feel when you were writing the book, how did you feel when you were writing? How long did this, I know we're out of time, and I have to ask you, and then we're going to tell people how to get the book, because you got to get the book, everybody, okay? This is like one of my, I haven't read all your 40 books, but for the ones I've read, this is my favorite. I really, it was so deep, and you have to reread it. But how long did it take you to write this book, and how did you feel when you were writing it? I mean, what was your? It's so deep. I just can't even imagine.
They're all true stories, Deb. They're all true stories. It's just that, over the period of 40 years that I've been writing and teaching, you grow. When the more we learn to love what is timeless and true, the more what is timeless and true shares its love with us. So it's a question of gradually awakening to something that not only won't act against itself, but that is so interested in discovering itself, in realizing that in these moments where formerly I was humiliated, now I understand, as it says in Scripture, in my weakness is thy strength made perfect. All of these things that we've heard about, maybe been beat up by with mechanical religion, all of it begins to ring true because now the book of life in the truest sense of the word has been opened in you, and you are the one reading it, and it's being revealed to you the truth of yourself, which is timeless and at its root divine.
Yeah, and I think that for me, it was so unexpected. There was such a surprise for me. And you're talking about sharing your two stories. The one that touched me about your dad passing, and you sharing with the reader that
pain.
Your father's pain. That's what you would ask him more about, was your father's pain, and thinking about everybody listening, everybody, all 7 billion people on planet Earth, ones that have existed and yet to exist, we all have had some sort of a pain. But that compassion, that humility, there it is again, that connectedness through the pain, wow, that is redemptive suffering, I guess you could say, right?
Yes, it is a form of atonement. And it doesn't require, how do I say this? It's timeless. That's the message of the book, that finding this being one is open to us at all times if we're willing to begin to turn and look in the right direction, to realize the necessity of change, and then allow what has revealed that necessity to us to deliver us to the lessons required for the realization of this atonement. It's all there. I can't. I've spent my life writing and talking about it. What life I have left, I'll spend my time talking and writing about. And whatever I do at any point in this existence will be about this one thing, because it is in us, for us, and about us at all times.
And Guy, really, you've definitely succeeded in that. I don't know who said that quote, the best thing you can do with your life is to create something that will outlast it. But these books, they're living forever, and the way that you've touched hearts, you've changed so many people forever. And, there was that great story, too, that we have to let go of whether we think something is good or bad, or the attached to the results. The guy that you had the story. I don't know how you came up with this story. The guy that was in a boat, and he got captured, and he became a slave, and he was in chains. the chains and the key. And people were making fun of him because he was taking the old wood rotted ore and he was carving a key out of it. And everybody's laughing at him like, what, you think that wooden key is going to get you out of that metal chain? Forget it, it'll never work. But you know what? He kept his hope, his optimism, and he still kept crafting his wooden key. And years later, in the end, the guy that was really rich, that came by the boat, that saw the key on the man's weathered neck, needed a carpenter in his kingdom, and that guy got his freedom. The key didn't work, okay? The key didn't work, but the key worked. And that is the irony of it all. I just love those stories. I love your stories, and I can't even get them all. It's another plug. Just get the book, people. Just read the book. There's so many stories in there. I love that story about the wooden key.
He spent his time loving what he loved instead of resisting his circumstances. It's the story of Viktor Frankl, the search for meaning.
Oh, yes.
All of these things share these timeless truths where essentially our experience of any given moment is determined by what we value most of all. And if we find ourselves awakened to realize that we're sitting and hating or resisting or resenting or regretting, and then realize what in God's name in me values this negativity, then we have a chance to release ourselves from an unconscious nature that light has shown us, has captured us, has taken us over, and we can begin to change.
Well, this is just the beginning for each one of us, and I am so grateful you've spent more time than I know you have allotted, and you're so super busy, but we have been blessed by you. You've blessed my life. I know you've blessed a lot of listeners. I'm seeing a lot of activity here. The Secret of Your Immortal Self, Guy Finley. What a gift. Let's tell people again, Eric gave me all the information. People can get it tomorrow.
It's one word. It's yourimmortalself.org.
www.yourimmortalself.org.
Yourimmortalself.org. One word, yourimmortalself.org. And as you said, including your gift, there's just a cornucopia. I mean, really, just a wonderful series of gifts that you can select from, whatever you think best fits you. But most important, you'll get this book, and you'll get some select items from my foundation that accompany it, that augment the material. And Deb, I know we got to go, but you please contact Eric, because I know the show ends and we can't talk anymore. Tell Eric, I want you to have Wisdom's Path to the Happiness Within. It's a 10-DVD album. It's new, and it's nothing but stories. None of them are in the book. It's a separate set of stories on DVDs. I'd love for you to have it.
Oh, my gosh. I would love it. Stop. I love it. Oh, I would so love to have it. I am so grateful and so excited. Guy Finley, I love you. I appreciate you. I just love, and I love this book. What a beautiful, beautiful blessing that you've been to me, to thousands of people around the globe, and I know that this book is going to be fabulous. And I'm asking everybody, when you get the book and you go to yourimmortalself.com, right?
No, yourimmortalself.org.
yourimmortalself.org. They can share that link with other people to get the book on Twitter, on Facebook. So I'm going to ask everybody, because I always ask everybody to share the show, which is how we have so many listeners, because everybody helps each other. But I'm going to ask them to share that link, yourimmortalself.org. If everybody can post that link from Guy on your Facebook page, Twitter, LinkedIn, or just one place, then we can get this book. It's going to be a #1 bestseller again, along with your others, but I'd really be happy if that could happen, because we need this. We're spiritually starved as a society for this peace and this wisdom, Guy, and thank you so very much.
I'm so happy that you, how should I say this? We are all so grateful that there is, in fact, something divine, that it is true, it lives within us, and that we can share it. The more we do it, the better off we are as individuals, and the brighter our planet becomes for it. So it was great talking with you, Deb. Anytime you want to talk on the air, If you ever get out this way, let Eric know. Please visit the foundation. And that's it.
Oh my gosh. I want to when I get out there, I want to see all the bird feeders and the bear.
Okay. Right, I promise you. And I'll even let you hand feed some of the deer here up at my house.
Oh my goodness. That's a lot of fun. All right, everybody, go to secret-of-immortal-self.org. God bless you. Thank you so much for joining us. I really hope everybody, you enjoyed the show. Go get that book. You're going to love it. I promise.
Thank you for listening to the Best People We Know radio show with your host, Deb Scott. For more on Deb and her guests, plus her award-winning guidebook to transformation, The Sky is Green and the Grass is Blue, Turning Your Upside-Down World Right Side Up, go to Deb's website, greenskyandbluegrass.com. You can also connect with Deb for coaching or speaking, and sign up for Deb's free Mind Vitamin newsletter while you're there. So now, you're one step closer today to your greatness. We look forward to being with you next time on the Best People We Know radio show.